And there is a section of the army sided with the people with tanks are moving to that brigade and fighting them.
Doctor, have you been able to... Please continue.
In front of AlJazeera, at the moment, in front of AlJazeera Hospital, there is a big celebration, and people carrying rifles from the army, mounting an army four-wheel cars in the celebration with their arms and wearing the military dress.
Doctor, we're seeing pictures of those who died and some who are wounded on our screens at the moment. Have you got a figure for the number of people you believe have been killed in these demonstrations in Benghazi, a total figure?
It's very difficult, as you know, to get an accurate number. But we have a definite number from yesterday, and from AlJazeera Hospital we have 18 deaths. From Benghazi Medical Center, 5. And from 7th October, 1 death. These are yesterday. As far as today, and this is an old, this is about 4 hours ago, about 13 deaths in AlJazeera Hospital and 3 deaths in Benghazi Medical Center. I haven't got any numbers from Al-Hawari or 7th October Hospital yet.
Quite a number of these deaths, we understand, were young people. Is that right?
Yes, this range from 13 to 35, and they are civilian, young male.
And what about the wounded? How many are you treating at your hospital?
The wounded is a huge number. It's very difficult to cases move straight away to theater, and most of them they are thoracotomy, where you open the chest because there is a bullet either through the heart or through the lung or one of the big arteries. And then either to stay in the ward or to move to another hospital as they are more stable. I have a figure from yesterday, and these are accurate, and these are serious injuries. 128 serious injuries in AlJazeera Hospital, 176 from Al-Hawari Hospital, and 8 from 7th October Hospital. I haven't got a number from Benghazi Medical Center.
This is an enormous number of people, all of whom were suffering, do you think, from bullet wounds, or were some of them...
These are bullet wounds, all of it in the chest and abdomen. And some of them, especially yesterday, these were very heavy machine guns, where you can see the entry and exit is a quite big hole in the chest or in the abdomen. And most of these cases, they arrive dead.
I need something, please.
OK, Doctor, thanks very much indeed. The signal is breaking up quite a bit, but that's a doctor at AlJazeera Hospital talking about the casualties that they're trying to treat there. More than 300 serious injuries yesterday, and many more deaths than we had at first thought. The figure being put out by a number of people at the moment is round about 230. It was impossible to sort of collate the numbers that the doctor were giving us, partly because he didn't have them all and partly because the signal kept breaking up. But to summarize what he's been seeing, people on the streets of Benghazi riding in army tanks, holding army weapons, and the suggestion is that members of the military have decided that they can no longer confront the people. They've gone over, he said, to the protesters. But there are at least, well, there is at least one brigade, possibly more, at the Al-Falil compound, loyal to the colonel, particularly to the colonel, one of the colonel's sons, Khalil Gaddafi. And he says that they're still holed up inside the building with no sign of them giving up. But massive celebrations, according to that doctor, on the streets of Benghazi. Well, that's a little summary of where the situation in Libya is. Nothing like as unpleasant in Bahrain, although some people there have lost their lives. But it looks pretty calm at the moment. And the US Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, well, she's now thrown her weight behind calls for political reform. Well, these are the scenes in Pearl Square, in and around Pearl Square. Our correspondent suggesting that there's a bit of a gap between what the protesters want and what the opposition's demanding. This is a nurse smashing a picture of the Prime Minister. Shouting death to the Khalifa family. That's the ruling family in Bahrain. Many of them having to treat the critically injured and also deal with the dead who've been brought in over the course of the last 4 or 5 days to that hospital in Bahrain. Let's hear what Hillary Clinton had to say.
We've been very clear from the beginning that we do not want to see any violence. We deplore it. We think it is absolutely unacceptable. We very much want to see the human rights of the people protected, including right to assemble, right to express themselves, and we want to see reform. And so Bahrain had started on some reform, and we want to see them get back to that as quickly as possible.
Oh, no, I'll do it after. Well, our correspondent James Bays is our man in Manama, been there since it all started, and he says the protesters aren't interested in talking to the government.
There seems to be a disconnect between the opposition politicians and the people. And let me tell you, David, when that opposition politician finished his interview and headed back down into the crowd, we followed him. And the crowd came up to him and said, "You're talking about dialogue, you keep talking about dialogue." He tried to explain himself, and the crowd around him said, "We don't want dialogue. We can't talk to these people after what has happened. We want the government removed, and we want the king out of here." That's the sort of feelings that we're getting here, the strength of opinion you're getting among the ordinary people. Now, the opposition politicians are saying that what they want first is some sort of commitment from the government, from the ruling family, that they're serious about making concessions, that they're serious about talking about constitutional reform. They say they haven't had that yet, and that's why, although there's this offer of dialogue, no one's actually sat down to talk about anything yet.
Going back to some news out of Libya, this involves the UK Foreign Secretary, William Hague. Now, to my knowledge, which may be limited, this is the first time we've heard of a conversation between a politician outside of Libya and a member of the Gaddafi family. William Hague saying he spoke to Saif Gaddafi, son of Colonel Gaddafi and the head of the Gaddafi Human Rights Society. And William Hague apparently expressed alarm at reports of large numbers of people being killed or attacked by Libyan security forces, and told Mr. Gaddafi, this is the son of the leader, that the Libyan government's actions are unacceptable and would result in worldwide condemnation. Now, the statement goes on, the Foreign Secretary strongly encouraged the Libyan government to embark on dialogue and implement reform. So news of a conversation there between the UK Foreign Secretary and Colonel Gaddafi's son. Still to come in this programme, dozens of civilian casualties in eastern Afghanistan after the latest NATO-led operation there. Stay with us if you can.